No. We're talking about someone called Polly People who was going around about 2.5 years ago arguing that there is a genocide against trans people. You had people like Lonerbox, of all people, arguing against this. And you also had this person who is Dylan Burns, and we're only going to be able to see Dylan Burns, I'm guessing, this whole video. I don't think Polly People is visible, unfortunately. You don't really get the full effect, but you'll be able to hear this person talking. Dylan Burns, if you know who this is, like his channel isn't huge. He's you know, somewhere. Oh, he's got a Twitch account. Hang on, let me just check this. But yeah, Dylan Burns, if you know who he is, either it's because of his journalism in Ukraine, or it's because of his panel shows. He used to do debate panel shows that people like Destiny and Vorsh and so on would appear on. I think he... Oh, okay, this is gone. Never mind. And I think he tried to bring it back recently, and it wasn't really working out. But yeah, Dylan Burns, presumably going to be arguing that there is not, in fact, a trans genocide. But yeah, if you thought that the Surus thing and other people running around right now calling it a genocide is a new thing, it really isn't. And it's the same arguments, it's the same 10 steps, it's the same all that kind of stuff. But yeah, let's see. So it'll be a debate, Dylan Burns versus Polly People, on whether there's a trans genocide.
What's the purpose of this question?
The purpose
of giving me a completely like made up hypothetical?
I can.
Okay, yeah. Explain yourself before I explain to you why that answer's fucking stupid and actually put these things wrongly.
You don't
go ahead
to be rude. Hello.
Hey.
Can you hear me?
Hello, can you hear me? Yeah, I can hear you.
Yep, I can hear you fine. Hear you
all right,
loud and clear.
Well, thanks for taking the time to talk to me. We've never spoken before. In fact, I don't really know too much about your content. I was lucky enough to be on one of the recruitment panels way back in the day, but that's about it.
Oh, yeah.
I'm hoping the music is going to die down because it's a little on the loud side.
Hippy Dippy. That ship has sailed, but it was a good campaign.
Yeah, Hippy Dippy was his panel show. So if you ever used to watch people such as Destiny and other no-names, usually there was him and then like mostly people you didn't know, all shouting at each other about some topic or another, then you probably were watching things like Dylan Burns' Hippy Dippy.
Of piracy, I would say. I view that time much like I was a pirate. Much like a pirate Vince McMahon going through the high seas, stealing content left and right off of people's vital port ships.
Well, the best part is the booty. That's true. That's why you piracy, to be honest with you.
It's always the booty. Everything, every political issue, at the end of the day, boils down to booty.
I mean, hey, I haven't found a counter argument to that yet.
Yeah.
Maybe today's the day. I don't know.
That's the truth. The left still fails to accept. They're terrified. They become anarcho-Buddhists.
All right. Well, so I heard you were talking about Lonerbox and the trans side, and you happened to look at my tweet, and so I was wondering. I didn't get a chance to watch, but some people in the chat were just saying you were looking at it, and I wanted to get your point of view. I guess, well, let me tell you this, and you can tell me this is not you, but I can tell you what's irritating me is that there's a lot of folks in the debate bro space that are kind of missing the point on this.
Oh, wait, one question. Is it okay if I smoke during this, or would you consider that disrespectful at all if, like, not taking it seriously?
No, I think it's okay.
Okay,
I can't see you, so you could have no clothes on and I wouldn't know.
Gotcha. I was raised by my grandparents, so people in my community view it a little differently, so just making sure.
All right. Well, I appreciate it then. If I smoke, I will also ask. Okay,
there's one problem with like liberal men. You need to ask consent for literally everything. Just do what you want, bro.
What was I saying? I was saying, okay, so I am quite sure this is not going to be your take. I hope and pray. But like, so this random panel that this dude named Will decided to put together on a whim and invite, transphobes among other like freak shows. I had a talk with him. It didn't go that well, but what he repeated was essentially seems to be the one of the things people are saying. Is that people like me who say there's a trans genocide out there should not do that because it's not just about whether or not there's a genocide. They'll say like this is about a word, right? Are you using the word properly? And where I come from, we have a saying for that. It's tone police. So like the debate seems to be is should we tone police trans people? And people aren't picking up that I'm trying to like say, look, you shouldn't have panels on this because it's essentially a question of should we tone police trans people? And so far, I have yet to like, get through to somebody that...
Like the tone policing thing, anyone can tone police anyone. If you don't like someone using a certain word, you can fucking say so. Why should we act like, oh, well, it's trans people, you can't tone police trans people? Why trans people in specific? Either you think you can tone police people or you can't. And generally, trans people seem to think that they can tone police others, but they want special treatment. That's the kind of thing I'm getting from this poly people person so far.
The debate space. I feel like you might be the first person who sees my point.
Okay. So can I repeat your point back to you? So, and like repeat it with like some like frill attached to just make sure we're both clear. So because I don't want to interact with something that turns out not being your position, right?
Yeah,
so
that's fine.
Is your position basically that trans people obviously are facing a threat in today's society, and we need to use, and we're using this word to describe that threat, and when we have a bunch of people going online and like debating if that's the right word, not only does that diminish, you know, the bringing attention to the threat, but you're kind of like tone policing trans people by telling them like, you can't use that word to describe.
Yeah, like straight away, I just don't care about tone policing trans people. Like, you'd have to be talking about tone policing in general, whether it's good or bad. It shouldn't matter whether it's trans people or not. You don't get like certain privileges against like things like tone policing just because you're trans. And truthfully, if you want to be like persuasive, suggesting there's a genocide against trans people when that word is usually reserved for like Jews in the Holocaust or Armenians or like, you know, the stuff in Rwanda, like it just comes across as gross. It makes me think that it's not about highlighting that there's an issue. It's about trying to shock people into seeing an issue that isn't necessarily there in the way that they're saying, at least. But I don't know. I'm not going to be sympathetic to poly people at all. I don't think Dylan is either, from what the intro suggested. But most people weren't amenable to this person because they came across very, very nuts.
Describe this very obvious threat to your survival.
Yes, and it also plays into tropes like you're crazy. You know, you're too emotional. You're just, you know, you're running around like your hair. Like it just brings out the worst.
But the problem is, you're the one playing into the trope. If you're going around saying there's a trans genocide when, you know, all there is to back that up physically, really, is that trans people have a higher than average suicide rate, which is explained by so many things anyway. So I think Polly's point is pretty bad here.
In people, even people who I would have considered allies end up saying super like even kind of bigoted things in their zeal to tone police me. It's just a bad discussion.
So, you know, can I make a comparison from my life that I've found, something that's similar to this, because I'm trying to relate to this as much as possible.
It's offensive to anyone whose heritage involves actual genocides. Yeah, potentially. Like, this is the thing. Do you have to use that strong a word when there isn't evidence that what is supposedly happening to trans people is in any way on the same level as, say, Jews in the Holocaust?
Before any nuance. So, if you don't know much about my content, what I've been doing recently, I just got back from Ukraine. So I went over there to like document the war, interview refugees and aid workers, hopefully participate in some aid work myself. And
yeah, it's not often that a genocided population is like growing. That's an interesting point.
There is a question that's been posed by New Lines Institute and a lot of Ukrainians that I talked to about whether what's going on in Ukraine like meets that definition. And I've went to like a lot of locations where there were like mass graves. Yeah, really. The things human beings will do to each other is horrific to me. Really? And when I look at the war, I would call it like almost a war of annihilation. Like the goal from the government has been pretty clear that Dmitry Medvedev said that, you know, Ukraineness is a disease of the mind. It is, you know, it's fake. The Ukrainian national identity is fake. It's a knockoff. It's a puppet of the West. They're trying to basically erase Ukrainian culture, erase it by saying they're all Russians. And so to me, there's a question that's proposed about like, is that a genocide? And if I was to sit down and have an academic discussion about whether it meets the definition of genocide, I can do that, but I never ever do that. And the reason I don't is because I feel like if I say publicly, even if I get to that academic conclusion that this is not a genocide, then it feels like I'm almost diminishing the suffering that I personally saw. I'm diminishing it, and I'm telling Ukrainians that word you're using, which you feel describes the suffering you're feeling, that's invalid. That's wrong. And I, the person who doesn't face it on a daily basis, am the one who's going to tell you how to describe the suffering and threats you face on a daily basis.
Yes, I mean, this is not analogous, obviously, because Ukrainians are being like, there's a war going on, you know, like what's happening to trans people that is analogous to what's happening in Ukraine, you know what I mean? Like, just isn't really the case.
Is that at all how you feel?
Yes, you are not tone policing Ukrainians. And I hasten to add that part of your
Well, yeah, but the Ukrainians have more of a case for that. I don't know if I agree there's a genocide against Ukrainian people, but I think any sane person would be more amenable to someone saying there's a genocide against Ukrainian people to there's a genocide going on in the US of all places for trans people. You know what I mean?
Description of their concerns, marks their, in my mind, why some of them might describe that as a genocide. When you tell a story about people that makes them seem dangerous, and that story presumes without stating that the solution is, to annihilate a people, that's when it becomes pretty acceptable to start throwing around terms like genocide. Like if the Ukrainian people are a disease, for example, or predatorial or something like that, something analogous, to the stuff I hear about people like me. It's not the same words, but it's the danger that presumes the nihilistic sort of total solution. And I wouldn't, like the people that are being subject to that solution, if you will, tone policing their description of how they feel about it and what they think the risks are is doing harm.
So,
like doing harm, tone policing, like really? For a genocided group, our little problems are not are kind of small. We're being tone police, it's a genocide. I don't know, bro. The genocide already happened. Those people are gone. Happened before World War II. Explain what they sided with the Nazis. Hey, maybe. Listen, I only know so much about the whole thing. Compared to Ukrainians, like, trans people really don't have a leg to stand on, is more what I'm saying. Like, either way. And I mean, I don't know. It's a bit difficult sometimes to claim genocide when a country's like at war. Like, they're killing each other for a very different reason, but nothing is analogous with trans people at all. Like, it comes across like we get brushed slightly on the arm and we're rolling around like our legs have been snapped into.
I think so far we're on the same page. Uh-huh. So I want to take a step forward here and ask you a question about, like, do you think there's a difference between, like, an individual having genocidal intent and seeking a path to do genocide and a genocide actively occurring?
Well, the way I would think about it is this: is stages. So, like,
there we go, stages. Nothing about that Cirrus video was in any way new. They've been pushing this stages thing for a long time. And I'm not confident that I'd say we meet any of them, personally.
I think the way, so like...
Oh, Holodomor. Okay, fair enough. I know bits and pieces about that. Like, yeah, that, yeah, fair enough. And again, the question would be then, well, if we're going to say the Holodomor was a genocide, we're going to say the Holocaust was a genocide, how on earth do we compare any of that to trans people? That really doesn't make sense at all. Do they want the martyrdom? Wouldn't that mean they want trans genocide to have something to fight? I'm not sure. Is that Brianna Wu? No, this is someone called Poly People.
In order for the word genocide to be useful and meaningful and not a waste or,
Like back in the day, I think that Cirrus guy made a video about this. You had Poly People, I think Demon Mama was trying to argue there was a trans genocide going on. Council of Geeks, I think, was kind of suggesting that. I'm sure Jesse Gender probably was, because that's the kind of thing that person would do. I don't know, man.
Unreasonable expansion of the word that some people have told me that I risk doing is it has to serve a purpose. Like, it has to be meaningful and it has to call attention to something that people might not otherwise pay attention to. And in the case of trans people, and the way that this is talked about in many places is in stages. So, like, the stages of genocide. And so as you go, further along the path to genocide, there's like...
I mean, the Brianna voice is just a reality for many trans people. It's not easy to, like, lift your voice, and when you do, you sound ridiculous. It's just how it goes for plenty of us.
Like, a bunch of steps before you reach extermination. And so when people say, no, Poly, trans people are not being exterminated right now, therefore it's not a genocide, that literally makes the word almost useless.
Well, like, you're saying trans people are being exterminated, but that's not... People are not being exterminated, that's the problem. And the only way to make that argument is say, well, we're creating conditions making trans people want to kill themselves. But how is, like, arguing that there's a trans genocide, is that not going to freak people out? Is that not going to contribute to that problem? Like, oh, you're literally being genocided, your life is, like, worthless anyway. Whatever you try and do is going to be insurmountable because you're being genocided. Like, I yikes. Well, the thing is, this poly people person showed her face and stuff. This is just the video as it is. It's very hard to find stuff on it. This person was around a lot back in the day, and it's all like polyamorous. This person? Then nothing at all. I think is this person. I think is this person. Yeah, okay. This is basically all that remains. We've got an OnlyFans. How delightful. How nice. Wait, what was it? Throne.com. I don't know what that is. Feel like I don't want to know. Currently banned on Twitch. Okay, so we've got a handful of shorts. So this person did show their face and stuff. And often you get this kind of fetishy kind of thing going on. Like, members only content. Are you serious? Are you serious? What isn't members only? Okay, this rather disgusting looking thing.
Newscasts are talking twice as fast as Shake It. Everyone is doing so fucking great here in California. No one knows why it's. Newscasts.
Yes, this person will appear wearing almost nothing, all this like fetish gear and stuff.
They're talking twice as fast as Shake It. Everyone is doing so fucking great here in California. No one knows why it's fine. No one investigate this. 8-year-olds are now in college. They are so productive. Yeah.
I have no idea what this person is talking about, but yeah, that's poly people. So yeah, she's one of those kinds. Fetish gear, sex work, thinks there's a genocide, that kind of thing.
Genocide. There's like, a bunch of steps before you reach extermination.
Probably at least 10 years older than me, although who knows. Scroll down, jump scare. Yeah. Yeah, apparently it was against poly people, not poly people, Xeno and Poppy. Here's the thing about nutters on the internet is they'll generally all fall out with each other.
And so when people say, no, poly, trans people are not being exterminated right now, therefore it's not a genocide, that literally makes the word almost useless then, because then you can only call out a genocide after it's way too late. The reason why people think of it in stages is so as to call it out.
I mean, arguably, it's something you can potentially only apply in retrospect. And the problem is, what we're kind of suggesting here is that you should use these stages and call all sorts of things a genocide, which have got nothing to do with what we've previously referred to as genocide, because we're making connections that something might be happening that looks similar to like persecution that led up to the Holocaust, but that doesn't mean that's what's going to happen. So like it still has to follow the steps. So there still has to be some kind of extermination. And it's like, what if you're making this argument, but that never happens? Then you've been throwing this word around flagrantly, and you've been the one that has been devaluing the word. You know what I'm saying?
And you use the word, for God's sakes, so that, useful and appropriate countermeasures that are generally, there's a lot of people that have done work on this who have fucking dedicated careers to studying and then trying to figure out, most importantly, how that it never happens again. And so one of the things that you look to is the stages. And, there's a lot of scholarship on this, and it's super hard for me to understand.
It's retrospectively put in stages. That is true as well, yeah. It's quite difficult to see something ongoing and call it out when it's a genocide. Because a genocide is such a serious thing, And if someone's got a vested interest in painting themselves as a victim, that's the kind of thing they're going to reach for.
Understand why people, when we're being dehumanized, when trans people are being dehumanized, and that's literally like stage 4, at least. You could say we're further along. Stage 4 out of 10 in the stages of genocide, where somebody would bother to tone police how I describe it, seems like very poor allyship or worse.
I think so. There's like two separate conversations to be had. Right. The first conversation is if the conversation should even take place, which is its own debate, and it's kind of hard to have a conversation about something you're like talking about having a conversation about. So, like, which conversation would you like to have? Would you like to have the?
Yeah. Another thing is typically, I suppose it doesn't have to be an innate thing. Like, you can genocide a group of religious people, but like with trans, I don't know how analogous trans is to a religion. Like, religions at least have like history. It's a tough one. I don't think you can genocide trans people personally. Like, people can just take on that label for basically nothing. It doesn't have much weight. It doesn't mean very much. Like, at least to be a Christian, you have to believe certain things. If you're going to be a Christian, you have to believe that Jesus Christ was the Son of God. Whereas what does trans take? Deciding you're a woman when you're actually a man? Like, I don't know, man. If there was a genocide going on, people would be hiding their trans status, not celebrating it. Maybe. Some people really want that kind of victim status, though. So I can kind of see why people feel like that's going on and are like proudly like, you know.
The conversation about whether this conversation should take place or whether there's like an ongoing trans genocide in the United States.
If the conversation needs to take place.
I mean, I don't know, like, was like the Branch Davidians, were they genocided? I don't know.
It's certainly not going to be a conversation that's set up by a cis person who doesn't really understand what the fuck's going on. That's just too much. That's dangerous. Like this is a conversation that you could have.
Often an overlap between religious and ethnic persecution. That is true. And like, certainly, like, there's absolutely no way we should put what's supposedly happening to trans people on the level of like ethnic groups, like Jews, for example. Wasn't there a bishop that didn't believe in God? Probably somewhere.
In trans spaces and even with trusted allies as to what the best.
It's happening. Why is the government not silencing them? Well, the argument is they're trying to be like sly about it, but fuck knows, honestly.
Messaging is, like, I'm quite sure that there are trans charities out there that have these discussions all the time. How is it going to be that we get our message out? But it's not a debate. It is a we all know what's happening, and what is the people that are risking the most? What is the people who are at risk? What is their thought on what is the best?
Use my assumptions of Polly's point here. How is it dehumanizing to refer to as a man? It is not. The dehumanization thing, from what I remember, there's really no weight to. I don't see that trans people are really being dehumanized. I think trans people sometimes dehumanize themselves. So it's all very flimsy, honestly.
Way to liberate them. So it's the only conversation should be among people that are trying to decide how best to achieve their own liberation.
So I'm just trying to think, because I want to know if, like, because having the conversation, like, there's this, I do believe personally that there is nuance between a intent to do.
They want genocide because they create martyrs. Yeah, maybe, yeah. There's power that can be leveraged through emotions. Yeah, I mean, geez. It's all an appeal to emotion. You want people to feel a certain way. So you push these narratives about a genocide, even though it's completely bogus,
Do genocide and the genocide occurring, not in saying, like, trying to downplay the severity of a threat, but in, like, proposing countermeasures. And I think that's, like, where the importance of the conversation is.
You know what I'm talking about when I say stages of genocide, steps of genocide?
Yeah, there's dehumanization, and then, like...
Yes, and there's sort of generally agreed on what the appropriate countermeasures are. Like saying the word genocide doesn't presume any specific, like...
Yeah, Purple, this is where I'd say that people probably want that kind of status. Oh, I'm part of a group that's being genocided, and I'm, like, standing up to it and shit like that. Which is really not what's going on. They just put shit in their bio, and people make judgments of them based on it. It's not as deep as they're pretending.
Like, wouldn't presume any means to fight it. That's missing the whole point of, like, talking about genocide.
Well, I guess being specific about what stage we're at when it comes to like, we have people, with the goal, the government is now working with the pursuit to eliminate trans people, and people plotting to make the government to do that. I think the difference between that does require a different legislative response.
Yeah, and by the way, we're talking about the government. Who was in charge? This was Dem territory.
Maybe a different physical response, because, like, personally, like in Myanmar, where there's, like, a genocide occurring against the Rohingya Muslims, mass people being 750,000 forced off their land, terrible stuff. I think that, like, the solution, there is no legislative solution. There is no solution in Myanmar outside of, in my mind, killing soldiers and fighting back. This seems to be what the rebels agree to, and this seems to be why 1/3 of the country is controlled by rebels. And the reason why I believe that this is moral, and I think it's a very radical thing, but an important thing to, like, put that line in the sand when it comes to, yes, I do think it's moral that they're overthrowing their government and fighting in that way. Just because.
Okay, but I don't care about that. Like, that has nothing to do with me. Like, you're.
Yeah, stupid Dylan. Why are you trying to compare it to actual genocides to see how it stacks up? You can't do that. That'll make Polly look stupid.
You're not listening to me. Okay, so like what I'm saying is, when I say there's a trans genocide out there, I'm not talking about Myanmar. I'm not talking about fucking Ukraine.
Yep. If you're going to call it a genocide, it's going to be compared to actual genocides. Why would she be like resistant to like comparisons to other genocides? She should have been making this. She should have been making these comparisons herself. It's absolute nonsense. Like, yeah, of course he's gonna like think about other kinds of genocides. You know what I mean? Genocide is killing out a genealogy. Hey, maybe. The thing is, does it have to be a genealogy? Does it have to be anything ethnic? Like, if you're killing like Christians who are like ethnically the same as the majority population, but they're Christians and it's not a majority Christian country, you kill all those people, is that a genocide? I'm not sure. This is hilarious. These people are nuts. Listen, I'm surprised more people haven't started up streams just showing off the insane shit that trans people have been saying and doing on the internet for the last 5, 10 plus years. I'm surprised more people haven't done it, because you'll never run out of material. There's so many of these insane fucks. I've never watched this person on my channel. I've been going for ages. How many people?
I'm not talking about anything specific like that. I'm saying, look, the only thing I'm trying to imply is that there is a concerted effort that is growing to eliminate trans people. That's all I'm saying. The solutions can then be talked about, but you cannot get in the way of people like me using the most appropriate term to describe what will happen if people don't act.
But it's not appropriate, and you don't know what will happen if people don't act.
What will happen?
Yes. Do you think, okay, so.
Jesus Christ, give me.
Do you just not believe that trans people are basically like at serious risk if we don't fight against what's happening here? The demonization of us, the laws that they're passing. I mean, they just fucking filed a fucking bill in Texas to make people like me, defined as drag queens. Wherever.
God, it's like, it's never ending. Oh, this bill in Texas. And it's like, what are we saying nowadays? Oh, well, there's a bill in Texas that's trying to eliminate our existence, when it's not even that. And if you listen to anyone with half a brain, or if you actually read it for yourself and think about practically what it's saying, is an insane fucking claim.
I go they're doing to us what they did with like abortion. They are trying to pass laws that are just ambiguous enough to eliminate trans adults from public life and detrans.
They persecuted Catholics in the UK for centuries. It wasn't a genocide. Fair enough. Like, I don't know. I guess I'm still kind of considering whether it matters that there's an ethnic group specifically. I'll keep thinking about it. So, I mean, I guess the Uyghur Muslims in China, that would be a specific group, like an ethnic group. But I mean, hey, if it has to be based on like a genealogy, then I mean, automatically trans people cannot be genocided. Like, it's pretty nuts. There's a comment that's been here for a while, like genocide definitionally can't ever apply to trans people. A lot of the discourse about the name is pointless. I'd agree with that. Like, they go on to other stuff. Like genocidal rhetoric. I don't know if I agree with that, but persecution isn't genocide. That is very true. Yeah, so far at the moment, it's like Italian football shit. It's flinging yourself on the floor because someone brushed you on the arm and you're trying to convince someone that your leg is broken now. Transition
trans children, under law, like legally. So I'm not sure that I'm not sure. Do you just disagree with the idea that they're trying to get rid of us? Do you think it's not what they're doing?
I do think there are people.
The Ottoman Empire, yeah, I can imagine. Like, we like to pretend that white people are the only ones that ever colonized and ever swept through lands, like killing off groups of people, but I don't know. The potato famine Irish. Yeah, maybe. I don't really hear like the potato famine getting called a genocide. It's weird because that must be orders of magnitude worse than whatever's happening to trans people at the moment.
Political activists and politicians and very disgusting people who are trying to erase trans people from public life, try to force them underground. And I think there's even some who actually, I would say, of course, it's a radical minority, but there are some who even have a murderous intent. And some have even engaged in that murderous intent by doing fire bombings against like donut shops that host drag queen story hour and stuff like that.
Okay, but for somebody like me, there's not really a dime's worth of difference between somebody who firebombs a drag show and somebody who just says, look, I don't, I know that this legislation is going to kill trans people. I just don't care. In fact, I think.
Okay, so erasing nuance. The other thing is, what legislation are we talking about that would have literally killed trans people?
I like it. Like that's still the same.
Ottoman Empire to Turkey for Turks only. Is that around when the Armenian genocide happened? That still leads to our elimination, and it's all still methods to further the genocidal intent of these laws. We still don't get told what we did to the Irish when we go to school in the UK. Well, yeah, they don't want people to grow up hating their own country because of the shit that we've done,
So I
elimination, and it's all still methods to further the
like what legislation are we talking about? What legislation is actually going to lead to trans people dying? Like, I have no idea what was happening in 2022 that would have literally led to trans people dying, and people are signing off on it. And who's going out saying this is going to lead to trans people dying, but I don't care? Like, I wish poly people would give like any examples of this kind of stuff. Apart from like a bill in Texas saying that, oh, it's like drag. Did that even get passed? This is the other problem. People bring up these bills and then they just don't happen. Or even if they do happen, there's really not any real effect on it. Maybe they're not enforceable or whatever. And then it just makes this whole thing look stupid. And we're going to be doing the same thing again. That fucking Suris video. He brings up that bill in Texas. That's like one of his main pieces of evidence. It might not even pass. And then his video is going to be like, at least in part, useless now. Using genocide for this is disrespectful to those who have actually been through that. Yeah, I agree. Like, it's just not comparable. We're going to claim technicality that we're being genocided, and that puts us in the same leagues as like Jews in the Holocaust or Armenians or something like this. It's insane. And you have to do a lot more than what Polly is doing to justify that. It's a very strong term, which means that it should be used in like specific cases that trans people aren't meeting, or like the treatment of trans people isn't meeting, in my opinion.
Genocidal intent of these laws.
Most anti-trans trans bills that TRAs love to talk about don't even get passed. That is true. And it says so on their stupid little websites that track all these bills that I think more trans people need to unsubscribe from because it's just freaking them out. Much more of them fail than pass. And the ones that pass, I looked at the ones that pass. Was it yesterday, the day before? I can't remember. I think it was yesterday. They were like nothing. One of them was about the Boise University women's netball team or volleyball team or something. Like... Okay, we're being genocided because of that? Sure, bro. I disagree.
So I think that's all bad, and I think that's all contributing to that. But I also do think that there is usefulness in talking about different stages of development and what stage we're at. It allows us to have like a better response. And I think it also gives...
The problem with trying to identify we're currently at this stage is, well, what if it doesn't proceed from there? Then everything you've been arguing just ends up being useless.
It's a more accurate information. Not to downplay, like, or virtue signal. Or
there's a bill in Mississippi banning masturbation. Like, there are plenty of bills with dumb laws that won't pass. Yep, very true.
Tell people like call it, but I think it would be like it's best for like informing people about the severity of the situation, what our response should be.
And what makes you think? So, like, are you saying if I say there's are you trying to tell me like in gentle terms? Because feel free to just tell me what you think bluntly.
Mm-hmm.
Are you trying to tell me that if I say something to the effect of, there's a genocide of trans people going on, do you think that that's not true?
I think people will get an image in their head, an image that might be inaccurate. And I think it would be best to like avoid an inaccurate image.
Just say no, it's not true. This is the problem. People like this want to be respectful. They're like liberals. They don't want to rock the boat or whatever. I would rather just be kind of firm. It's not a fucking genocide. You can argue we're currently at this stage. It might never go anywhere from that. It might decrease again. Like, who fucking knows? Like, I don't know what progress we've made on the trans genocide since 2022 myself. Things have become a bit more adverse. But that's really because of certain things, like pushing kids and, like, sports and stuff like that. Things that people specifically have an issue with. And it seems like those are the things being cracked down on. So again, like, we go back to that fucking Surah's video I watched yesterday. How is the anti-trans bills being passed indicative of a genocide? It doesn't make any sense. It seems like there's specific problems that people have, you know? And they're being addressed. That's not genocide. That's overreach on one side and then a backlash on the other side.
What makes you think that's going to happen? What makes you think the average response isn't, I never thought of that. Explain yourself, Polly. And then I could explain to me, and then I could take that opportunity, because this is what I do all the time as I have these discussions. I can take that opportunity to explain how genocides happen and start and show them that there's enough information out there to raise their awareness level and to not give so much grace to politicians who say, I'm just worried about children's health, or I'm worried about strippers at like book reading stuff. Like, the reason why it's important to be able to say genocide is that it sort of like clears people who are willing to listen, clears their minds to really fully understand what's going on here. Like, what
are you saying? What are you fucking talking about?
Raise their awareness level and to not give so much grace to politicians who say, I'm just worried about children's health, or I'm worried about...
Yeah, but what if they are? That's the problem. There is an issue. Like, transitioning a child is a risk to their health. So yeah, maybe it's just about that. It seems like we're trying to deny reality. It seems like we're trying to convince people of something that's not true. Like, it seems like she's almost admitting this, even. I feel like I wish I could see this person's face, because I wonder what kind of tells they're giving. I don't think this person actually believes there's a genocide. I think they just want people to think there is.
Strippers at like book reading stuff. Like, the reason why it's important to be able to say genocide is that it sort of like clears people who are willing to listen, clears their minds to really fully understand what's going on here, like what the intent of these laws are.
This doesn't make any sense. What are you saying?
Or like, they don't actually care about drag queens. They're trying to eliminate queer people, specifically.
Yeah, so it's spin, it's rhetoric, it's talking points. They don't actually care about this. They're trying to eliminate, well, you're telling people what they think. You're saying these people have this motivation. But what if they don't? Like, you're kind of banking on that people are as evil as you're saying they are, when we don't know. It's so bizarre.
Trans people from public life, they don't actually care about children's health. They literally don't. Do you think that when they...
Well, you're just saying that. You don't know what people think. You don't know. I don't know what's in fucking Dylan Burns' head. If he was watching a video of me, he does not know what's in my head. People tell me all the time that I just care about fucking sucking up to like Rye Toys or something when I'm a fucking trans liberal. They don't know what's in my head. This is really bizarre.
Do you think that when these state legislators pass laws to like detransition trans kids, do you think they're doing that because they don't understand health?
A lot of them probably, in large part, but I do think they're also hateful. I think a lot of them are misinformed. A lot of them are stupid.
Polly people is Looney Tunes. I agree. Hi, Daddy Fat Pants. I like your name. Hope you're good.
So you don't think they listen to the science? So like Florida, for example.
I've met a lot of...
When they had when they had the health board, right, and the protesters came up and said, we want to speak, and they declined to let them speak, and they relied on, obviously, like, quack testimony. They relied on data from a fucking dentist, among other things, and they ignored the evidence from actual experts, and they refused to hear from people. Do you think that they did that from a place of misinformation, or do you think it was just what they wanted to happen? Do you think this is just
I think it's a combination of both. I know a lot of people who walk back from their conclusion, where they want to believe something, so they just walk back to try to find whatever evidence they can to back it up. Then they'll use misinformation to back up their beliefs, making them genuinely think that they're right. It's really sad, it's stupid, and it's still hateful. But I do think misinformation plays a large role.
So do you...
Yeah, the problem is, what poly people doing is literally a misinformation campaign. I don't think whatsoever that poly people actually believes what she's saying. I really don't. There's an emotional investment in it because she wants the right to go around saying this kind of stuff and not be challenged on it and not be tone policed. That seems to be the actual issue here. I just don't like people giving me shit for saying there's a genocide when there isn't.
But
this person is a narcissist who thinks everyone else's actions are based on them. Yeah. A lot of this trans activism for a long time. Yeah, we've done Leo and Willie. We got to see their post about you. Yeah, we have to frame it around trans people. It's all about wanting to take down trans people. It can't be about, say, women's rights. It can't be about, the actual health risk to kids. You know what I mean? We have to make it all about us. And like, poly people is just like following by example, I think, because this has been going on a long time. It's a spin campaign. It's propaganda. She doesn't actually think there's a fucking genocide. She just wants the right to say it without people giving her shit.
When they're willfully, procuring only misinformation that validates their beliefs.
Yeah, the thing is, Brad was too nice to Willie. I would never be that nice to them. Because that person's a crybaby. That person says all kinds of horrible things about people. And then got upset because I laughed at a joke about someone looking like Mo Sislak. So Willie can dish it out but can't take it. And there's this post on Leo and Willie's community posts or whatever, like coping about why they're not gonna like reach out and talk to Brad Palumbo after offered them to, which you'd think is bizarre because Brad is a much bigger channel and that's an opportunity. But then how's Willie gonna stick up for any of the shit that they say? You know what I mean? Person's voice sounds first, Amanda. What, poly people or Dylan?
Because in their heart of hearts, they think that we are dangerous and they think that we're predators.
Someone like Polly probably does want there to be a genocide so they can get the victim points. But hey, listen, I talked about assuming people's motivations. I don't actually know this person's motivations.
Or they're willing to at least, consider that and be like, well, better safe than sorry. I don't know one way or the other whether, not everybody is a cross burning zealot. Some people are like, well, I don't know one way or the other, but fuck the trans people anyway. They're probably just groomers, and I don't want to have to deal with them. Like
more concrete examples I see. Oh man.
Like there's different levels of hate that are necessary and sufficient to carry out a genocide or to cause, a genocidal fervor, if you will, to spread in a population. Right?
Yeah, I do think there are absolutely people who would be happy to start a genocide, or would be happy, and are most of them not being honest, be happy to go out and
maybe I'm hearing it a bit. First Amanda if he just pissed his pants. Or first Amanda cross with Brianna Wu, maybe. Yeah, the thing is, it's a perspective thing at the moment. Like, all we're trying to do is reframe the things that are happening as being a deliberate attempt to attack trans people. So, like, this is just the same shit that other people do, just slapping a shocking word on it. You know what I mean?
Do
these horrific acts. And I do think there's a risk of...
See, I think you keep falling back on the people that are firebombing places. Like the way you do genocide is not just by like firebombing. It requires legislation, and I am.
Oh my god! Someone gets it. Someone gets it. This is exactly what I'm thinking. The word genocide is useful, not the word genocide is correct. All you need to know about poly right there. Yes, true. Oh my God, that is literally it. It's about being able to use this term. It's not about there's actually a fucking genocide going on. Oh my God, it's so fucking obvious.
Surprised. I gotta tell you, I'm surprised at the number of people who know they are, these states are literally legislating us out of existence.
Not even true. Who's legislating who out of existence? How come we're still making these same dipshit points? And when I look at the actual bills that are being passed, it's got nothing to do with legislating us out of existence. People keep using that Texas bill to argue that's what they're doing. That's not what they're doing at all. That doesn't make any sense to say. It's just not happening that way. And it might not even pass anyway. Hopefully not. I think it's a pretty stupid bill. Like a felony for saying you're a man when you're actually a woman. Like, that's completely disproportionate. But it's not trying to legislate trans people out of existence.
They're not making these same factual mistakes with really many other groups of people.
I mean, they could argue there could be ways of legislating trans people out of existing the way that they believe themselves to exist. But that's a very, very different claim to saying that they're trying to remove us. We don't exist anymore. Well, I mean, so long as you're alive, you do in fact exist. I don't know, man. I don't know.
If any, like they're specifically targeting us. And it seems strange to me that there's so much room being given to these people for just being, oh, they didn't know any.
Who do they think wants to round up trans people into death camps? I don't actually know, but what I do know is that people will tell me that I won't be spared by those people. I don't know. It's always they. It's always the nebulous they, as if we're listening to fucking Muse songs or something about they won't destroy us and stuff. It's like, who are you talking about? Some nebulous fucking government official or fucking corporation or some shit. It's fantastical and it's ridiculous.
Better when they described us as groomers and pedophiles and a contagion, literally a disease. It's really in the fucking stages of genocide when you start to dehumanize people and like talk about them like they're a disease that needs to be exterminated.
I think most people don't mind dealing with a human who is trans. Yeah, I agree. It is dealing with trans people who are more of gender than of human that is tiresome. I think I get what you mean. Yeah, I agree. You get trans people that are focusing way too much. I think this is where this queer thing comes in, honestly. It feels like queer is about obsessing over our differences from other people, rather than, you know, what we have in common.
Like that's like how can you not at that point be like, you know what, I'm done giving them, you know, I'm done trying to see it from their perspective. Why don't I just look at what they're doing as opposed to trying to think they're really just, you know, mistaken like good people.
I used to work with a woman who was becoming a lesbian as her husband was transitioning, made it a topic in every conversation. That's weird. Jesus Christ. I can't imagine. That sounds like the most awkward shit ever.
Because the history of political movements is bad actors taking advantage of misguided people. I do think that there absolutely are bad faith people with even genocidal intent.
You can be trans without medicalizing minors and ruining them as sports. Well, that's the thing. That's why, you know, what would have happened if we weren't pushing that kind of thing? I feel like we wouldn't be in the place that we're at. We will spare you, me and the New World Order, if fascists can confirm. Fair enough.
Going out and targeting the trans community with legislation and out in public. But I don't necessarily believe that...
Listen, fascists love me and I love fascists. That's a joke. That's a joke. I don't even know if I know any fascists. Not many people probably do, because there's actually not very many out there.
Everybody who's been caught up in it started at that position. I think a lot of them were misled. Not necessarily the political leaders, but maybe amongst the followers. I think there's fewer up there, but I've met politicians who generally believe their bullshit also on climate change nonsense.
Do you think Matt Walsh is just mistaken?
No, I don't think he's mistaken. I think he's pretty deliberate.
Was Matt Walsh mistaken about what a woman is? I think he's right about that.
Okay, how about Ben Shapiro?
I don't know enough, but I would assume deliberate.
Okay, so
yeah, but are those people trying to get rid of trans people? Or are they just arguing something? I don't know, man. I don't know. This is the kind of conversation, if I was having it, I wouldn't want to give an inch, quite honestly. Because these, like, poly people types, they don't deserve being given an inch. They don't even believe the shit they're saying. This is complete bullshit.
So these are people supported by like, I mean, the fucking Republican Party platform is hard. It's hard to describe that as anything but genocidal. They've managed.
No, it's easy to describe it as anything other than genocidal. What are you fucking talking about?
To pass laws in states, and to the extent they haven't, managed to, they've tried to take executive action, like a genocide. Genocides famously, they don't ask for a vote, right? They don't try to get a popular majority. They try to get by on misinformation and fear, right? Like, it seems like
But that's what you're doing. You're spreading fear and misinformation. Like, the projection here is like painful. Something about how dishonest this person is like kind of fucking triggering me.
Or you're just unwilling to sort of see that genocides happen in a multifaceted, complex way, and you think that, if you count firebombing or you count the...
And by the way, to those retards that are like, I can't imagine how you have the kind of opinions you do. It's because I fucking hate liars, first and foremost. I just hate liars. I just hate people lying. I hate people pushing these kind of ridiculous things about there being a trans genocide, when it's clear it's about like being politically advantageous because people feel sorry for you and stick up for you. But it's not happening. This isn't what it is.
Number of people who are openly hateful, that'll tell you. But if that's what you're looking for, you're going to miss it, right?
I guess for me, I'm not trying to deny that this could be the early stages of building up into a widespread genocide, or that we couldn't be at the early stages of development of something like that. What I'm more trying to emphasize is I do think there is a usefulness to making it distinct when we're at one stage and when we're at another.
Or someone like Bruce Jenner, they'd made the argument, that person kowtows, so they'll keep them alive, but they won't spare them and shit like that.
I do think there is a usefulness to making it distinct when we're at one stage and when we're at another stage, because each stage. What's the usefulness? Difference in response is, I think, extremely useful.
The problem is some of these like stages, you'd be putting an awful lot of stuff on there. You know what I mean? This isn't Brianna Wu speaking. This is someone called Polly People. I'll show you again if you want. This person here. This isn't Brianna Wu. I don't know if Brianna Wu has pushed for the idea there's a trans genocide, but this person does frequently. She just sounds a lot like Brianna Wu.
Useful, because at a dehumanization stage, and then like the stage where they're loading people onto trains, the actual response you have to like have physically is different. Legislatively, it's different, because once
this person here, this is Polly People.
He's almost there. He needs 216. He needs two more. One more.
Next speaker of the United States.
Boo. This poor woman's been so tired of reading off names. That's it. Congratulations, Kev, from me to you.
Once you've met a certain level, a legislative response is not even on the table anymore. Right? Like,
I'm telling you that. Like you're preaching to the choir here. What I'm saying is, why quibble about the word genocide when these are all stages of genocide? What if trans people think this is the best way to call people's attention to the fact that this is going to get worse? This isn't just a sort of, mistaken legislators, doing oopsies, right? This is actually a concerted thing. You can tell by media. You can tell by the way they are fucking demonizing us, the way that they're even successfully passed legislation against us.
Legislation against us. So vague.
Like
people onto trains, the actual response
preaching to the choir here. What I'm saying is, why quibble about the word genocide when these are all stages of genocide?
Because you're comparing yourself to like Jews in the Holocaust. Not difficult. Because you're pushing like dishonesty. You're trying to use a term that isn't appropriate to use for yourself for political gain. That's why.
What if trans people think this is the best way?
Like, this is when people should be fucking tone policed, when they're doing shit like this. Because it's dishonest. And it's so obvious.
To call people's attention to the fact that this is going to get worse. This isn't just a sort of, mistaken legislators, doing oopsies, right? This is actually a concerted thing. You can tell by media. You can tell by the way they are fucking demonizing us, the way that they're even successfully passed legislation against us. Like the word genocide is useful.
Useful to you because you want victim points. Because you want more people to stand up against anything remotely so-called anti-trans. And yeah, what you're risking is pissing off anyone that, has some kind of attachment to an actual genocide, who feel like it's like stolen valor in a way.
for explaining to people why it's going to get worse. Now, not every person's going to agree with my characterization, right? There's some people who are unwilling to call it that. But what I'm saying is that, that's not, you're not helping if you're trying to explain why this is not a genocide, right? That's not helpful to us.
No, it is helpful, because people like you need to shut the fuck up about this being a genocide. It's not helpful to anyone. It's actually just furthering divides, I think, and making us look delusional. And making us look like we can't just explain what the problems are.
Well, I mean, I think then...
Like, the problem is, I hear all this vague rhetoric. Basically, the genocide is just like the cake topper to the same shit that everyone's always fucking saying all the time. You know what I mean? And this is just taking it to the next level. But it's still the same vague shit. It's still the same nonsense, you know?
And like, if the question is, this is not a debate or a conversation to be had, then I think like moving from there, like everyone just needs to stop talking about it starting now, right? If the conversation is like, we can't get into specifics about if this is a genocide in creation or a genocide occurring, because I do think for average people, if you told them like a trans genocide is currently underway in the United States, they'd have a certain image in their head, an image that probably wouldn't be accurate. Because the images that people have of genocide...
Yeah, because you're misleading people when saying it's a genocide. Because what people think of when they think genocide is like Jews.
Genocides of things that have historically been genocides, like the Armenian genocide or the Holocaust, of course, being the most well-known one. That's what people are going to fill their head with. And so
yeah, but do you think, like, let's say 1933 in fucking Germany. Like, would you be tone policing Jews that were saying, yo, I think there's there wasn't the word genocide. But let's say there was. If somebody was saying
yeah, he was running around tone policing the Jews back like, what?
Genocide there, yeah, sure, they weren't doing fucking,
1913?
33.
33?
Yeah, the first fucking camp just opened, and they were sending political prisoners there. They weren't really killing that many.
Yeah, they were already sending people to camps. What's the equivalent for trans people? She's using her own arguments she's using. There is no comparison. Like, actually insane.
People, there's a lot of people dying by suicide. There's a lot of people, like, leaving,
You wouldn't say this is 1933 Germany, though, would you?
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand, like, when
I would say it would be 100%.
When is it acceptable for to you? When I start saying the word genocide, when is that?
Yeah, if people start taking trans people and taking them off to camps, I feel like, yeah, there'd be more discussion. But that's not happening.
Not going to be okay.
Well, what line? It's the problem with the word genocide is there's not like a hard line to be drawn anywhere, and there's still debate about it. So it's hard to draw a hard line anywhere. But I do think that a lot of it has to do with like the popular conception of what a genocide is. Not
being able to draw a hard line is what people like Polly rely on. Because it's vague enough, they can like squeeze themselves in.
And what it has been historically to describe events as. And so if there's a major disconnect between what we're describing as a genocide and what everybody else describes as a genocide, as we're trying to tell them that one is currently ongoing, they might end up just looking at us like we're fucking crazy, like you've had the problem with.
Well, right, but I feel like you would know that that's not how shit happens. Like if you use a word that people don't.
Yeah, amazing rebuttal. Well, that's not how shit happened. Like, I don't know, I kind of agree with him. Obviously, you say genocide, people are thinking like Jews and stuff. Actual things that have happened where there's just no comparison. Like, the only way to actually make an argument that there's a trans genocide is to take it to the very start, because there's just almost nothing happening like what they're saying is. Just give me 1 sec. I'll just be back in 1 sec.
think is correct, they don't just like shut you down, you know, unless they want to shut you down anyway, and that's a whole other thing. What they will ask is like, well, that's kind of strange. Why would you say that? That seems kind of crazy. That opens the door. Like it is important for people like me to explain to people like, you know, who are in your audience that might be wondering whether or not I'm just screaming with my hair on fire or not. Why personally I believe that the word genocide is useful, and why people trying to tone police me does not.
Yeah, you remember that comment? Useful. It's not about being accurate, it's about being useful. It's so bullshit. This person is full of shit. I don't care. This person is a complete liar. She doesn't believe any of this shit whatsoever. And she's getting pissed off that Dylan isn't just immediately accepting everything she's saying.
Not help, because I know that I have the ability to, and I'm willing to explain why I use the word, because there are very few words that paint a motive behind what's happening. Like the fact that you are, you know, both unwilling to sort of let me sort of just say genocide without pushback, coupled with the fact you seem.
See what I mean? Like I don't know how much more I need to watch, because she's laid all her cards on the table. She wants to be able to say there's a trans genocide without people giving a shit for it. The problem is, if you say there's a genocide when you're not, when there isn't, people are going to give you shit for it because you're lying and you're exaggerating. You're making something out that isn't there because you want gain for it. You want sympathy. You want people to stand up for us or whatever. Well, what's there to stand up against?
To be giving a lot of room to these Republican legislators for just being misinformed and just whoops sort of shit, like kind of proves my point. Like the real thing that's going on there, and I tell you this, you know, from the bottom of my little trans heart, is that they are trying to get rid of us. They really, really are, and they will say whatever they can say to try to fool out of my little trans heart. The real thing that's going on there, and I tell you this, you know, from the bottom of my little trans heart, is that they are trying to get rid of us. They really, really.
It's just like, it's like this childlike insistence. Oh no, but it's happening, but it's happening.
Are and they will say whatever they can say to try to fool.
I'm not super surprised that this person has run out of arguments this quickly, but like, fuck me.
People and throw them off. And
what's annoying is like, I get why, but someone like Dylan's not just going to fucking outright call this person a liar. That is just propagandizing for social gain. That's what they're doing, though. That's 100% what's going on. And I don't know if I'd make that claim to every other person that's claimed this, but most likely that's what it is. These people are just lying.
Say our motive is not this. Our motive is because we care about the children. But I know better, and people like me know better. And there are very few words, I'll say again.
Of course, trust me, bro.
And that help us encapsulate in as few words as possible, because we don't get a lot of attention from people. I'm going to be honest with you. That
true.
Cause people to stop and say, well, why would you say that? And that gives us an opportunity to say that we use that word because that's what's happening. We're in the early stages, to be fair. The fucking final solution is not at hand. But if we do not fight it as if it is a genocide, we will be exterminated, right? One way or the other will be.
Yeah, you just don't know that. This person does not have a crystal ball. This person can't see into the future.
Eliminated. So it is important for me to use that word because it.
Meanwhile, trans people are all over TV getting Oscar nominations. Yeah. It's an interesting genocide population when you compare it to other ones. But then you can't compare it to other genocided populations. Like, this person won't let that happen. Oh, it's so cringe. So cringe.
Puts people in the right frame of mind.
Okay, can I the charitability I give people who are misled is not meant to be like trying to color the people who are transphobic in a well light. Is just analyzing like why people like follow these political movements. I don't think their leaders like have good intentions, but I do think that people get caught up in a storm of transphobia and hate, and I think that's
how genocides work.
Yes, but I'm just describing, like, I'm giving, like, I think that's important to say, because if we just say that every single person who is transphobic right now is doing it knowing that trans people are actually perfectly fine, comfortable, amazing human beings, or just hateful, that isn't how we're gonna, like, get rid of transphobia, because that's not why everybody, like, is transphobic. A lot of people are transphobic because they've been.
I'm trying to stop an ongoing genocide. Like so transphobes are everywhere, right? I can't fight transphobia. You know, I have to.
Transphobes are everywhere. Do you not think maybe someone like this experiences like disproportionate amount of transphobia because of the way they put themselves out, because of the way they present themselves, wearing nothing but a corset? Like this one, like I hope they fucking tucked. Like normal trans people just don't get that much shit. I don't know, man. When I had jobs and stuff, people didn't seem to give that much of a shit that I was trans. Occasionally people were mean to me, like, so what? Like, people are mean to everyone.
Like, pick my battles. And what I'm doing...
I think what happens is this kind of person makes an utter arse out of themselves constantly and presents themselves in a very objectionable way to a lot of people, and then complains that there are a lot of transphobes out there. But it's almost like you're inviting it, in a way.
Right now is because your response is surprisingly common. I mean, you know, I guess I shouldn't be surprised that your average lib thinks I'm insane, but I'm not. You know, I mean,
I don't think this person's insane. I think they're very deliberately lying. I think I know exactly what they're doing.
I'm describing and I think if you're going to be charitable to me, you probably see what I'm saying too, and you probably have some discomfort with the term for your own reasons. But I'm not saying every Republican is a genocidal murderer.
God, or she's like all this mind reading. Like, do we have anything but mind reading?
Saying that what's going on right now is stage 4 of, you know, the stages of genocide. And if you think I'm wrong about that, you can talk to me about that. But if you agree that we're in stage 4 of genocide, stop tone policing me and people like me into saying.
Okay, so if you don't agree, you can tone police her anyway. Most people aren't going to agree with you because genocide is a very strong term for something that is just not happening.
Oh, we can't just throw around the word genocide because that might cause people to take up arms. That's literally not going to happen. Like the reason why you call this out is because it's incumbent that stops before it gets out of control.
So
out of control.
So to be clear, if let's say tomorrow, right, that like we pass like the Trans Rights Act and we basically like it does everything, like constitutionally, these transphobes cannot get through anything they want. And like they fall out of favor and they eventually go away. Like this is what we want. This is a great scenario. If that happened tomorrow, could you say the next day that there was a trans genocide going on in the United States on Tuesday, but now there is no longer one on Thursday? Like the state that's going on right now, this is the genocide that is stopped by this act.
What's the purpose of this question?
The purpose is
giving me a completely...
Of course, you ask a good question straight away. What's the purpose? Just fucking answer it. You're in a debate. Why would you sit there in a debate not wanting to answer questions? Don't debate people then. Like, really? Really, bro? Like, it's quite a simple question. So was it a genocide? If something happens that completely cuts it off anyway, would you call it a genocide? Like, would the Jews have been genocided if the Nazis got overthrown in like 1933 or something? And only a few got killed and some were taken to camps and stuff. But then it all got stopped before it went that far. But we used word like genocide to refer to what ultimately became mass killings of people. Like, fucking hell. She's so dishonest. Oh, I hate this person so much.
On Tuesday, but now there is no longer one on Thursday. Like the state that's going on right now, this is the genocide that is stopped by this act.
What's the purpose of this question?
The purpose of giving me a completely
like made up hypothetical.
Made up hypothetical. Meanwhile, we're assuming that at some point down the line, every trans person is going to be rounded up into camps. Meanwhile, we're pretending that how trans people are treated recently in the US isn't any way comparable to like the Armenians or like the Jews. Like, fuck.
Yeah, explain yourself before I explain to you why that answer is fucking stupid and actually put these things wrongly.
You don't need to be rude. But the reason why I asked the question is because I'm hearing like a lot of like, we're in stage 4 in the lead up to the final solution, the lead up to the genocide. And it sounds like there's like, it doesn't really matter if there's a genocide occurring right now or if there's one that could occur when we use this word genocide. But I think if we were to talk about the situation historically, I think it would matter. Because if you like after the fact, after like everything is said and done, if you look at the Holocaust or what's going on in Myanmar or Armenia and all these locations, there's like a point where people can point to and be like, this is...
is the word genocide used some kind of prize? Like if you've achieved some bad enough shit, then you could call it a genocide? Like I think that's where
Isn't that the point? Yes, isn't that the fucking point? Something has to be bad enough or it's not a fucking genocide. I don't know, like, Dylan Burns is okay. I mean, I don't know. Ultimately, like, debating and stuff, it's not as easy as it looks. Like, things aren't just going to come into your head when you want them to and stuff. It's not as easy as it looks, for sure. So I'm trying not to give him too much shit. I mostly just think he's, like, middle grounding it too much and, like, giving too much credence to someone that, in my mind, is clearly lying and clearly trying to use wordplay to push a narrative rather than because something's actually happening. Like, it's yeah, I don't know, man.
Where you're coming from here. Like, the reason why we use the word genocide is to try to stop the worst thing from happening again. Like, you're taking away the power of...
I mean, words are there to describe things. And yeah, you want to stop it from happening again, but that doesn't mean call everything you don't want to happen a genocide. Like, man, what is this?
The word by saying it's the fucking award that you get after you're gone. That's the...
I'm not saying that genocide is a prize, but like there are certain words to describe certain things and the levels of severity.
Yeah, it has to fulfill certain conditions. She doesn't want the word genocide to actually mean anything. It feels like.
Okay, so what would be acceptable for you?
I think. How about
wait, just let me finish.
Yeah.
What would be acceptable? Can I say?
Ask the question, tries to answer. Wait, let me finish. Everything is like agitating me.
Yo, we are in the process of genocide. We're not there yet. They're not killing us yet. True, you're right. Let me make sure that I don't overstate my case.
Can I just give you what I would say?
Sure, I'd be happy to hear.
I think that there are people in America with genocidal intent, and we need to do everything to make sure that they don't get their wishes conducted.
There's probably at least someone with genocidal intent for any group of people in America right now, or in the world right now, just to be clear.
Possibility of genocide occurring, and that is a huge problem that we need to.
Okay, that's completely understating it. Like, that's saying that there's not a systemic. Yes, because you're saying this is a problem with individuals, and that's missing the point. What there is systemic discrimination going on, and the crazy thing is, it's spelled out. It's not even like voter suppression where they pretend like it's not about race.
Discrimination is not necessarily genocide.
They're outlawing us in name. They're like of course that alone may not be enough, but it sure is a hell of a step toward it. Moreover, you have a campaign demonizing us. They don't say in law we're predators. They don't say in law we're child molesters. They don't say in law we're a social contagion. In fact, they say we don't know. We don't have.
Is it genocidal to constantly push the idea that like Christian priests are all pedophiles? I don't know, man.
Science on this, even though the science is fucking, it is rock solid, right? It's not a science issue. It's not a knowledge issue. It is purely a prejudice issue. And
the science is rock solid. That is not. Is she going to say a single true thing this entire fucking time?
And they get political points from demonizing us. Like by saying this is just a few bad apples, you're literally downplaying the problem.
Political points, like they get political points from responding to things that people don't like, and unfortunately, we're doing a lot of shit that people don't like. And like since then, the trans kids stuff just ramped up and up. And like, yeah, someone's going to jump in at some point and say no more. Oh my God. This person thinks the word ally literally means a yes man who agrees with whatever I say without questioning anything. Listen. This comment section is at least generally based. Like... Just letting Polly rant. Well, I mean, what can you say? I think what we're seeing on the screen right now sums it up. Like, there's nothing you can say to these people. They just want you to allow them to say things that are patently untrue and not give them shit for it. She just wants to be able to lie about shit and overstate shit and scaremonger about shit. That's all there is to it.
That was just a few bad apples. I said there are people in the United States with genocidal intent, and that there's the risk of a genocide occurring in the United States.
All right, so how's that different from me saying, yo, we're in a genocide?
That a genocide is occurring because one gives the image of camps and people being shot in the head and thrown in mass graves, and the other gives the image of somebody plotting to do that. And I do think that is a distinction because the approach you do to solve both of these issues is different.
Okay, so if you're willing to say there's genocidal intent going on, are you willing to say that we're on a path to genocide?
Yeah, I would be willing to say that. I've said that before. I'd be willing to say that there's a risk and that there are people on that path trying to push America on that path. I don't know if the United States federally is on that path. I see like certain states.
Yeah, we're giving too much away here. We're on the path to, are we? Are we? We need so much more. We need to be so much further along the path before starting to confirm it, in my opinion. So much of the stuff to begin with, you could apply to so many different groups.
State governments trying to, the courts are usually stopping them, but there are certainly people trying to push America on that path.
All right, so it seems to me like your nuanced position here is you're willing to, use the word genocide so long as it is sufficiently couched among other words. Is that fair?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess there's worse.
Yes, his position is nicer than what mine is. Mine is just don't talk about fucking trans genocide. Just don't.
Takes out there. But here's the thing I would say is that if you're willing to use the word genocide, so long as it's couched in other words, it's not super helpful if you go out and attack people who are not using the word genocide in the specific way that you yourself would. I think you're at least in the position where
like go out and attack people. We mean like tell you that you're a moron or something. I don't know.
You sort of see what's going on and characterize it fairly as there's a risk of a genocide going on.
I wouldn't use the word couching to describe it. I do think there is a nuanced difference between the risk of a genocide.
Yeah. I wonder how many of these people would accept that maybe we're erasing women or erasing sex as a concept.
Occurring and people trying to plot something like that, and it actively happening when it comes to like response and like how people should react to both situations. There should be reaction to both, but like as I've said before, I think the secondary response must be more severe. As in, I'm talking about like countries invading. Like I believe with the international standard that nations have a duty to prevent genocide, i.e., like even with force of arms if necessary.
Why are you though combining the potential solution with the education? So like there's two steps in this process. One is education. The second is trying to coordinate people to a solution. And this is done with more than just fucking, 2 or 3 words, right? So if I throw out the word genocide, couched correctly or not, there must be a follow-up discussion as to what to do about it to stop it, right?
Of course.
Okay, so then I don't understand why you need to sort of, argue with me about the potential solution. I'm not presuming any solution when I say there's a genocide going on.
Mm-hmm. I think this isn't my priority is to debate this nuance. Like earlier is like why you need to attack people for doing. I don't want to attack anybody for using. I'm just describing why I use the words I use. And I'm not even pointing a finger at anybody else for the words they use. I'm more describing why I use the words I use. Because as somebody who has seen this violence, like it's very important to me to be careful. And again, I think for me, it's about appropriateness of response. And I spend the majority of my time talking about response. I released a video on my channel, my main channel recently. But I released a video talking about LGBTQ plus issues in Ukraine and like the issues that trans people face when it comes to trying to get out of the country in conscription. That's what I spend most of my time talking about. It's just that this is the discourse that has reared its ugly head in this community.
Okay, well, yeah, I mean, I am happy that you are helping, to fight this, and you seem to, I'm going to say, I think you recognize the problem. I hope that you, and I feel like I'm going to even go so far as to say, I feel like you've listened to me, because here's what I think what's going on here is that there are people who would take what you say, and the statements that you make and take from that to say, people like Polly are crazy. People like Polly says there's a genocide going on without, people will take me out of context, right? They'll say, Polly says there's a literal genocide going on. And then they will lie.
Mate, I don't think I need to take this person out of context. I've been listening to the whole thing. And this person is crazy. Absolutely nuts. And like, this isn't about there actually being a genocide. It's about the right to be able to say that there's a genocide, which is just stupid. Why do you even care that much to call it a genocide? Why is it so important to use that word beyond just scaremongering?
Rely on people's biases as to what they think the term genocide means to paint me as crazy. And I would, I hope and believe after this conversation that you will, one, not be one of those people and be willing to call out other people who are trying to paint the trans people who are saying, perhaps in not the same way you do, but choose to use the word genocide in their description of the problem, call out people that try to tone police us and even worse, label us as problematic or crazy.
I don't think you're crazy. And I don't think the people who are angry about this discourse are crazy. I've interacted with a lot of people who have been through tremendous suffering, and I would never make it my place to jump in front of them and tell them what words they have to use to experience that suffering. But I also I would hope that there would be a mutual respect for me to understand why I'm so careful with these words. Because for me, like when I went to Ukraine, I thought it was part of my moral duty as a human being. I also think it's part of my moral duty as a human being eventually to go to Myanmar, where I think and do what I can to help where I can. And so when I use these words, like they have a lot of intent about.
Does my partner crochet my sweat? No. This came from Urban Outfitters. Charlie does crochet a lot of stuff, but I think I've got one jumper, but it needs a few repairs. But yeah, Charlie can like crochet like sweaters and stuff. She makes really nice ones.
About what I need to do forward.
The lie to say it's a genocide. She just admitted that. Hang on.
Right. And words. I also think it's because I would play
slide in their description of the trans people who are saying, perhaps in not the same way you do, but choose to use the word genocide in their description of the problem. Call out people that try to tone police us, and even worse, label us as problematic or crazy.
I don't think you're crazy, and I don't think the people who are angry about.
Yep, Demon Mama, Poppy and Xena, Poly people. Interesting how these people all seem to fall off or have controversies that suggest that they're actually terrible people in their own right. You know what I mean? Or just get banned the whole time. I mean, this person has like 744 followers. That's not very many, And they stopped tweeting anyway. I don't know if they're on Blue Sky or not. Oh my god, look at this. Dunked on me back when I said this is going to vote for Genocide Joe. But then we're talking about Hassan. Do we mean like Genocide Joe as in like Palestinians? Fuck knows. Fuck knows. This person still seems to... Well, I don't think they do believe this shit though. I don't think they do believe what they're saying. I think they're just pushing a narrative.
About this discourse are crazy. I've interacted with a lot of people who have been through tremendous suffering, and I would never make it my place to jump in front of them and tell them what words they have to use to experience that suffering. But I also I would hope that there would be a mutual respect for me to understand why I'm so careful with these words. Because for me, like when I went to Ukraine, I thought it was part of my moral duty as a human being. I also think it's part of my moral duty as a human being eventually to go to Myanmar, where I think and do what I can to help where I can. And so when I use these words, like they have a lot of intent about what I need to do forward. And so to me, these words mean a lot also because like I'm very interested in law and the history of these.
Yeah, Burma and Myanmar is the same place.
Words in describing human rights atrocities. I've been there when war crimes have occurred and so blown to bits. So for me, it's like a very deep personal thing to me. And so it's never that I want to downplay the amount of suffering trans people are facing. It's just these words hold a lot of meaning to me and how I will conduct myself in my life and what my response to the world will be.
I would believe that if you, I believe you when you say these words have meaning, or it's not the words that have meaning to you. It's the terrible things that happen if these genocidal activities are not stopped. And so, like I would hope and expect that people who know firsthand what a genocide would be like would feel quite strongly that if people who are potentially victims of a genocide, feel like they need to use this word to call attention to it because that's the best way to stop it, right? Because part of stopping a potential genocide is education and, using your voice that you will, respect.
Education, aka forcing this stupid point of view. I might skip towards the end because it's getting quite tired. Like, Jesus.
Like, why do you think there's a market for it is my question.
Okay. Well, there's a market for it because the whole space is dog shit, but I don't have time to deal with that. Like, that's a slowly chip away process, right? There's an extremely harmful panel that's going to happen. And my hope is that nobody watches it, right? That would be okay. If it's a small panel with some people that nobody watches, that would be one thing. But if there's a substantial number of people that are going to, as a result of that, begin attacking me whenever I use the language I want to use, which is literally already happening.
Yeah, attacking. She means like just giving you shit. She means disagreeing with you. Attacking doesn't mean actually being attacked.
Going to set us back. And so I suggest anybody who is trying to do a panel like this, don't believe anybody that says they're trying to do that for good. Because, Will's trying to sell this as, I'm trying to do God's work here. He has somebody like me trying to explain to him why he's doing harm. Because I am going to bear the brunt of it. People like me who are using the language that we find most appropriate will literally bear the brunt of the fucking...
Bear the brunt, aka people disagreeing with us. Oh, this person's pathetic. I can't remember how old this person is. They're at least my age, if not older. This is like pathetic. I hate this so much. Panel, no matter how it happens, which is why he shouldn't do it. He's not being an ally by doing this panel. It is only harmful in ways that people like me are going to feel immediately. People like me are going to feel immediately. Then shut the fuck up about this. You're putting yourself out there, and people are giving you shit for it because you're saying crazy shit. There is nothing to this victim narrative whatsoever.
Can I ask you, here's a question, and I'm a very cynical person, right? Okay. I'm saying this as a cynical person. Let's say that this debate happens, right? Which it most likely will. Will probably go through. Yeah. What if this becomes like the arc? Like there's an arc on Twitch and they're just talking about you remember how there was like the N-word arc on political Twitch where people debated using the N-word for whatever dumb reason, and then they like from arc. If this becomes that, how do you think people should engage with it? Do they just ignore that it's happening?
Some people are autoandrophobic, and being forced to live confined to male gender roles is just a life unworthy of living. Well, have you ever tried seeing a therapist about that kind of thing? Why are we making something like autoandrophobia, if that's even a real thing? Why are we making that everyone else's problem? That's what it sounds like is going on. It sounds like people should kind of take responsibility for their own issues and try and deal with them, instead of trying to force them on the rest of the world.
And like try to not to give it any air? Do they review it and criticize it? Or like, how do you think people should engage with it?
I would say that people should decry it. People should say this panel is really about tone policing trans. It might be, like if the cat's already out of the bag.
Yeah, oh, it's really about this. Again, just reading intent, just making things up. Just making things up.
Then you're forced to make it a teaching moment. It's you have to, not treat it as an arc. You have to treat it with the serious, nature that it's sort of, you have to understand that people like me, are real, and we're not just, this is our lives, and there are people that are actually doing work to fight what is a, what I believe is best described as a genocide. Early steps.
Wait, that Will in his channel guy. Oh my god.
Sure, but a genocide. And so one thing that you could do if this panel goes off is say, look, this is bad because it is essentially, it can do no good. The panel itself is a question of should we tone police trans people?
We're talking about a shitter panel about trans people. Oh man, this is going to be harmful to trans people. This Will and his channel guy hosting a panel about trans people. Mate, they'll be lucky if more than 1,000 views get on this fucking panel ever. I don't know if this even happened or not. Also, see Chud Logic. I can't remember if Chud Logic ever spoke to this poly people person. I don't know if he had any dealings with him.
Or are trans people who say this is genocide overstating it? It's not so bad. There's no good that can come from this discussion. I think that's relatively obvious. So this is one of those panel cases where the harmfulness is relatively obvious, I think. So if it goes off, if it happens and enough people watch it, the best thing
Yeah, the other thing is, these panels, ultimately they're about entertainment. And part of why I like Chud Logic is that he'll cop to that. And not many of these people will. They actually think that this means anything. For the most part, it's just people shouting at each other on the internet.
You could do at that point is make it a teachable moment, and then attack anybody that tries to do the same thing. We don't have a lot of choices. There's we're not everybody agrees with me, so I can only do what I can do.
So like you said, attack the people who would maybe host a panel like this in the future or would participate in it.
Right. Explain why they're not doing good allyship. Why you're harming things, particularly for an
good allyship. Oh, get in the sun, mate. Get in the fucking sun with that shit. You're not being a good ally because you're hosting a panel with trans people about trans people, where trans people aren't going to be able to control the entire narrative from start to finish.
Obviously, clout-based motive. It's really fucking disgusting. And I don't think that's a hard sell in this case. It's relatively obvious what's going on here. People of goodwill are going to see what I'm saying, and if they don't...
When people say it's obvious what's happening, obviously it's this, clearly it's this, that means ass pull. Pulled it out your ass. That's what's happening.
Don't see what I'm saying? They were probably unreachable to begin with.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I have this sounds weird, but I have ties to the Holocaust Museum. That's a weird thing to say, the Holocaust Museum.
Okay.
But I live in the DC area, and I know a lot of people who really study genocide and work with it.
Sure.
Do you think it would be more productive to try and make a different panel where we talk about historical genocides and what leads?
Yeah, I think people are tired of teaching moments. That is a problem. We need to stop pretending that we have anything worth teaching to people, I think.
Leads to it, so people could have an idea of what to look out for instead. Do you think that would be a better idea on this topic, so people could experts?
I can see why that would. Yes. I mean, if you have experts, of course. I mean, if you have experts from the Holocaust Museum, that would be amazing.
I'm going to do counter panel operations. Counter panel operations. Yes, chat. Yes.
They actually have in the Holocaust Museum. If you look it up, they actually have the stages. They're big. If you're sort of somehow associated with the Holocaust Museum, you know that they're going to be ignore me to give them that excuse. There's already going to be plenty of people out there saying that people like me are crazy and should be ignored. Right. What I don't want is somebody who paints.
I'll happily join them. This person should be ignored because they're being dishonest. And they know they're being dishonest. On some level, they know this is just some fucking campaign. They know this is just some propaganda move.
Paints themselves as an ally, and for fucking terrible reasons, essentially, clout reasons, using our issues to make us look stupider, right? Or to say that we're being unreasonable in our description. We're not being nuanced enough. Like we need to at least learn something about why we say tone policing is important, like, or why fighting against tone policing is important. Like if we instead, like, think about this, like, if this person is supposed to be an ally, why not have a panel on why,
wait, can I ask, does Will claim to be an ally or not? I don't know.
Yes. His big background is that he walked in 3 pride parades. That's what he said. He's like, he's qualified to have this panel because he's honest. And
qualified to have this panel. Anyone can talk about anything they want. Do you think rightoids, when they talk about trans issues on like panels or something, do you think they're scrambling, oh, we better make sure we're doing it correctly and that there's an ally contingent or whatever shit? Like, we have to make sure there's someone qualified to run it. Like, no. It's an internet panel. Like, this Will and his channel guy, like, he's like nobody. This shit is like internet bullshit that we're saying that people have to be qualified to do. You have to be qualified to run a panel on the internet that'll get about 2K views maybe. Like, this is so retarded. This is so fucking dumb.
And he's walking 3
Wait, did he wave a flag? If he did, then obviously he meets the standard.
I mean, so like, if you were claiming to be an ally, you can't do something that is obviously going to do harm.
This is so stupid. Like, do harm. Like, it's entertainment on the internet. I think you need to, like, calm the fuck down.
Like, the worst part is the fucking lie. It's the hypocrisy, right? And I know there's going to be that too, but I'm going to call it out, especially if they're,
I understand the skin in the game part. I remember I had this moment when I came back to the United States, and I was at a political event, and some people like crashed it, and they were like these Ukraine people, and I hadn't realized how, because I was just like, I stayed calm for most of it, but at the end I like flipped out. I like got really aggressive. It honestly was pretty unbecoming of myself, and I didn't realize how much that personal experience had affected me, and like having friends and knowing that they're the ones that are at threat, stuff like that. And so I think there's also like a disconnect that people have when they haven't experienced trauma or they're not part of the community that is being discussed. Because for them, it's kind of like pontification on the internet of discussing issues. And they could be right, they could be wrong, who knows? But the skin in the game is different. And so the serious...
Real genocide is not getting attention yet. The silliness, misusing the word gets attention. To be fair, the trans genocide isn't really a mainstream talking point. You don't really see it in like the news and stuff like that, as far as I know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'll find a bunch of stuff and immediately have to walk that one back. But for the most part, it's just bullshit on the internet. It's just like a talking point for like shitter channels like Surus and Poly People and Demon Mama and stuff like that. For the most part, it's just shitters on the internet talking about this. Usually because they want attention and they want likes and they want subscribes from certain kinds of people, like certain kinds of trans people who have some investment in calling something a genocide because they want to be able to exaggerate in peace, which if you're going to say patently false things in a public setting, people are going to give you shit for it. People give you shit for anything you say in a public setting at all. And what Poly People wants is the right to say whatever the fuck she wants without pushback. Like, I don't know, man. That's fucking insane. You're never going to get that. This is like completely cooked to fuck.
With which it's treated and the lightness and with which it is discussed is much different. And so I 100% understand that. I 100% understand.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that.
Awesome.
It's important for me to like, people who are reactionary, essentially, even if they're, style themselves leftist, the reactionary takes are something to the effect of like, Polly, you're just doing identity politics, or Polly, you're just fear mongering, trans people are...
You are fear mongering. That's the problem. It is fear mongering. I think this person knows on a certain level, probably, hopefully, that that's what they're doing. The reactionary shit I've seen from people who are ostensibly allies is truly disgusting and disturbing. And I appreciate that you're not doing that.
Can I ask you one more question before we head out?
Sure.
Is there any fear that, there might be people who pick this up and say, see, they're scared to even talk about it because they can't defend their position? Free speech type, that type of...
There's always right. Those are the people that I know are not with us and never will be. If they're going to be fucking weird about it, if they find that to be persuasive, fuck them. I have to judge who's persuadable and who's not. And if somebody's going to take, you're too afraid to debate in the marketplace of ideas, brother, fuck those people. They're not reachable. Sure. Come talk to me if that's your take.
Awesome. You have a good one, Polly.
Yeah, thanks for talking.
Thanks for talking, everyone.
Well, that was utterly painful. Jesus fucking Christ. Well, listen, at the very least, like, I don't know, at least people seem to be realizing how ridiculous this whole is. Wait. What the fuck is this person saying? I still don't understand how Dylan is oblivious to tone policing. Mate, tone policing is like if that's how we're describing tone policing, like, then it's necessary sometimes. Then you need tone policing. It's like we're trying to make tone policing a word for correcting lies or something. I fucking hate these kind of people. Clearly, this is ridiculous. Clearly, this person is fucking around. And this is not going to persuade people. You just seem like you're not living on planet Earth. People saying, please talk with Demon Mama. Yeah, Demon Mama. Yeah, that's going to fucking convince anyone. What'll happen is, he'll sit there while Demon Mama spouts off for like minutes on end. Then as soon as he starts trying to get more talk time, suddenly Demon Mama starts getting aggressive. Thank fuck. Listen, is Demon Mama still a thing? Thank fuck. Someone fucking said something about Demon Mama. What an absolute piece of shit. People like really tried to astroturf fucking Demon Mama. Pretend that Demon Mama was someone worth listening to ever on anything ever. This person absolutely sucks. There is no redeeming quality. I'm so fucking glad. Look at this. 5 months ago. I'm so glad. I'm so fucking glad. Streamed 6 months ago. Thank fuck. I'm so glad that all this dumb shit came crashing down and that this person is now hiding away on fucking Gayfesh's channel with Luxander after having been caught fucking grooming a minor, having some 13-year-old in their Discord that their partner was showing off dildos to, and Demon Mama didn't do a thing to fucking stop it. Like Monty, burn us all out just to raise their own profile. Yeah, these people all suck. I wonder if Monty thinks there's a fucking genocide. Who knows? But yeah, like, Jesus Christ. Oh, man. We really have for a long time been uplifting the absolute worst trans people have to offer. And there's so many of them that are absolutely fucking abysmal at this. And who are just here, attention seeking, instead of actually making any real points about anything. Just want to fight for the right to call something a certain thing. What does that actually do, really? What's the point in any of that? Oh, we've got posts. Yeah, all this got kind of abandoned by the look of it. Yeah, there we go. Poly people. Very, very weird person. I'll probably end up watching other things about this trans genocide thing, because it feels like this ridiculous point is coming back. Which sucks, because it's stupid, and it's not happening. But hey, there we go. Should I click on the OnlyFans? I'm not that brave. I'm not that fucking brave. Yeah. Hey, listen, thanks for watching. I'm going to start now. Stuff to do. I need to finish getting food ready at some point. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Thank you. I hope you have a good day. Have a good evening. Whatever it is you're doing. Check my music out. Check out my Discord if you want. Subscribe on YouTube. Subscribe wherever else if you haven't done so. And yeah, I don't know. I guess I'll be back. Probably not tomorrow. I think is it Saturday today? I'll probably be back Monday. Theories have been able to get it trending on Twitter a few times. Well, hopefully that's the most they'll ever do with it, because I don't know. You take it to any reasonable, normal person, it's just stupid. Patently stupid. Anyway, I love you all. Have a good one. Bye.